Okay, now we get into our program here, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce our first speaker, Greg Coker, retired U.S. Army, who has put together the program Not on My Watch on school safety and security. So welcome, Greg Coker.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Any veterans in the room today? Raise your hands. Wow, look at it. Hey, thank you all. You can thank those hardworking men and women for giving you the freedoms that you have today. Mr. Hall, thanks for inviting me here today. It's an honor and a pleasure. And I'm going to brief you all here for a few minutes on a program that I developed specifically for school safety and security. My company is Shield 9-1. Name of the program is Not on My Watch. My company, we have an extensive background in emergency response planning, security operations, firearms training, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Schools are an American institution. Our children are our greatest assets. I've taken upon myself as a crusade to keep our children safe. We accept weapons everywhere we go in this country. At theaters, on planes, in banks, everywhere but in schools. And that's where we need to protect the most. So just something to think about in the next few minutes that I cover this. Again, my name is Greg Coker. Excuse me for taking a sip of water now. Just a few things, not on my watch. I've got an extensive background in special operations. I retired a few years ago, moved back home here to the great state of Texas. I had multiple combat tours from 2001 to 2008, supported GWOT. That's the Global War on Terrorism. I'm an expert in current tactics, techniques, threat, security, you name it. Proficient in forensics, intelligence, data gathering, safety and security program development and execution, and a few of my qualifications. I'm here to educate you all today and just to raise your situational awareness. Mission is to provide our customers with a threat intervention focused common sense approach to safety and promote survival. School terrorism. U.S. shootings since 1980, there have been 116 in our schools. 93% of those are premeditated. 95% of those are current students in those schools. Here's U.S. school shootings and stabbings. 2012, we had 11. As of May of 2013, we've had 11. So as you can see, the numbers have been going up quite a bit throughout the last 10 years. These are some of the faces of terror. Virginia Tech, Columbine, Sandy Hook, the Colorado theater shooter. Columbine, 49 minutes. Sandy Hook, it was over in 2 minutes. Embezzling Russia, I don't know if any of y'all have heard of this, but on 1 September 2004, a school in Beslan, Russia was attacked and taken over by Chechen Al-Qaeda. They killed over 300 of their children over 3 days. There are those that think that this was a rehearsal for an act on American schools. There's a really good book out there. It's written by a friend of mine, John Guiduck, and it's called Terror at Beslan. I highly recommend if you're an educator or a concerned citizen that you get this book and read it. gun-free zones, they will be a target. It can't happen here attitude that endangers lives. How can lives be saved? Through threat intervention training. It's an education process. Threat intervention, 30 seconds. The numbers say that if somebody is trying to get into a building, if they can't breach that door, that window within 30 seconds, they will move on to the next door or window or the next breach point. 2 seconds. A well-trained person can draw a fire one shot in 2 seconds. 5 minutes. School shootings or acts of terror are over in 5 minutes. Look at the numbers. All my data is taken from the FBI's website. 10 minutes, that's the average response time of law enforcement in this country. 10 minutes. So if you look at the numbers, they just don't add up. So what can we do to help? Speed, knowledge, and strength, it will save lives. My solution, not on my watch, is a common sense approach to training, safety, and threat intervention. We'll integrate law enforcement at that local community or that local school district. It's a team effort. Our program is designed specifically for university and school district personnel to ensure the safety of their students and their faculty. This is a cartoon that was sent to me just a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you can read it or not, but on the top it says teachers loving and defending our kids, and on the bottom, teachers loving and effectively defending our kids. I thought it was pretty ironic because I've been rolling this out. A friend of mine sent this to me, but it pretty much sums it up. Some of the things that we conduct an assessment of that school district recommendations, courses of action, training, and implementation. But the end state is to mitigate risk to our children and our faculty of our schools. And that is a blank slide. Through training, we have 3 choices. We can lock down, we can evacuate, or we can fight. Right now, the standard is to lock down. They think a lockdown will solve all the problems. Well, not on my watch. It will highlight evacuate and fight, providing decision-making skills, educating the faculty as to what they can do in the event a terrorist act occurs at their school. Armed citizens, they will save lives. Speed, knowledge, and strength. Police responses, they take too long. Tactical response is necessary. Schools need to take immediate action to save lives and to stop a threat. This is done by establishing a program that responds quickly to threats and then stops the threat from escalating. Armed citizens do in fact reduce crime. I did a paper several years ago in my graduate program. It was specifically on this. And there's a lot of numbers and information out there. I'll conduct the vulnerabilities assessment and then make recommendations to that school district. Here are the mission and goals of Texas school districts. An emergency is to protect lives and property, mitigate the effects of a disaster, prepare for emergencies and disasters, respond to emergencies promptly, and aid in recovery from disasters. We just saw an example of that in Oklahoma. The methodology is to properly assess capabilities and vulnerabilities of a school district. What we'll do is evaluate by employing a site evaluation, on-site interviews, and a proprietary spreadsheet survey. Data produced from these activities will be broken down into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the surrounding area, Tier 2 is a campus exterior, and then Tier 3 is the campus interior policies and procedures. Here's an example of a school that I recently conducted this for. Tier 1 are your outer parking lots, roads, high-speed avenue of approach. Tier 2 are immediate parking lots within 50 feet of the school. And then Tier 3 is the interior of the school. So that's how I break it down. Some of the common vulnerabilities, just as an example, install cameras that are monitored. A lot of these schools have cameras, but they're recorded. So the person sitting in the office, they can't see the front door, and all that camera is doing is recording. Well, I recommend that they put a camera that's monitored by the admin or somebody in there in the high times of traffic, usually when these events occur. So if somebody comes up to the door pulling a weapon or don't look like they should be there, then they can start making calls. Improved gates and entries, improved perimeter fencing, visible parking passes for faculty and students. But my primary mission is to educate the faculty and then situational awareness. Tier 2 are the building exterior. Protect main entries with concrete planters and bollards. So any place where a vehicle can be driven into a door, through that door, I recommend, we've all seen them in government buildings. Heck, even Target has them now. You see the big red balls, you know, and I tell them, you can, and people will donate those things, especially around gates where you can see trails and tracks where people drive around gates. Well, go to your local Founder or wherever, they'll give you big rocks. Put those rocks out there, the kids can paint them, put their logos on them, or whatever the case, so they can have fun with it. Install security bars on door glass, large windows, fencing, entry points. And a lot of things I highlight that know they've been broken, such as propping doors open. Hey, I did it in high school. We all did it, right? Back there by the gym, you don't want to lock, go all the way around, coaches do it. Those are some of the things that we need to stop doing. We need to educate our folks on. It just stops people from easy access to get in there. Then Tier 3 are the interior of the building. Develop an emergency operations plan. Most of the schools that I've talked to and looked at, they have an EOP, but they just need to be refined and they need to be trained to that standard in which they've come up with these problem-solving exercises. But conduct tabletops and then conduct full-scale drills. Staff monitor cameras at the main entry. Alarm or panic access. Again, repair locks, clear lines of communication either by radios or a PA system. Put shades on the classroom windows. That way, if there is an event, teachers can close those shades. People can't look in the door and the windows to see what's going on. Just a lot of little things that will help them. Again, I'm trying to get to that 10 minutes for that response for the first responder. Every little thing we can do from the exterior all the way to the building to slow someone down is going to help us. Most of these like I said earlier, are over in 2 minutes. So anything we can do to lengthen that is going to help us. I have a few examples. Tier 1, wooded areas, no gates across the roads. And again, I'll run through these right quick, but I just wanted to give you an idea. This was another gate, and they were just driving around it, both left and right. So they put big rocks out there, so we couldn't do that anymore. This gate, it had a keypad entry, but again, they were just driving around it. So small things we can do to help keep our schools more secure. Glass is everywhere. Glass is not so good. They can break it, they can shoot through it, they can drive a vehicle through it. But there are small things that we can do to help prevent that. And we don't want to give it the vision of being a prison. We don't want our kids going to prison. But we can put bars on them. There are some ornamental bars that can be placed on there. There's some 3M film that can help, slow it down. Those are some of the things that I highlight. signs, you know, we're telling them right there, we don't let people with guns around here, so. Well, and I'll tell you real quick a little story, and I don't know if this was put out a whole lot, I didn't hear it by media, but the Colorado theater shooter, he went to 3 theaters that were closer to his house before he selected the theater that he went in and shot everyone. The reason he selected that one is because it had that sign right there on the front.
All right.
The other 3 theaters did not have that sign. That's a fact. Got him on video. On this one, I recommend install a buzz-in system or at least a camera that's monitored so you can look at folks. This particular door, the lock mechanism was broken. So again, there's a lot of things that we can do to help solve this. Gates in the background, the playground, they were left open. You can't see the door in the back there, but it was broken. Another entry protection, there's some bollards, some big concrete trash cans out in front of that thing so somebody can't drive through it. Again, another door, no weapons, no tobacco. A lot of glass in the corner. You can't see it real well, but that was a ditch that ran into the back of the school there, so they could come through the ditch, access through the school. And they decided to put bars on those particular windows because it's on the back side of the school. It also reduces other folks from coming into the school, breaking in during summertime. Another example of doors, I don't know if y'all can see it, but I highlighted, they've got a camera, it's right here, it's looking at the trash can. So, I said, it's not doing you a lot of good. The maintenance guy says, well, he wanted to record when the raccoons were coming and getting in the trash. So the raccoon's not gonna walk in there and shoot everybody. So let's fix the camera. And the superintendent, she made it so. But just these small things. I mean, I could stand up here for hours and show you some examples. This was another hallway. This was coming in the entry here. The door was broken, didn't work. So anybody could walk in that school with anything that they wanted at any time. Again, a lot of glass, a lot of windows. Easy access. On these particular ones, I said at least put shades on them so you can block the view from folks. You can peek out if you need to. More glass. Door wasn't locked. This is the entry to this particular school. Admin sat right to the left, so they couldn't see anybody coming in and going out, whatever the case. So at least you could install a live feed camera so they could tell who was coming in. More doors that didn't work. This was another school. This was the admin for the entry to their school. They had no visible, they couldn't see the entryway. This down the hallway, this was while school was in session. And I know the state of Texas recommends keep all your doors locked when school is in session. Close those doors and lock them so people can't, they get in, at least they can't get into the classroom. Makes sense. Just little things again. We know what we're supposed to do, but we need to continue to educate our folks and keep their situational awareness. It's a team effort. So some of the plan recommendations: develop safety and security plan, detailed policies and procedures, and train your folks on those. Detailed emergency operations plan. We distribute, train, and practice. We as humans, we have a tendency to forget unless we do things, repetition. Approved gates at the entry, a key card access, cameras monitored at high traffic times. Again, with high traffic times, I recommend the local law enforcement and the superintendents, they have the law enforcement officer in their car up there at those high traffic times. So when school's starting, when school's getting out. It's just a deterrent. improve access, doors, windows. There's several different mass communication. LRAD's one of them. It's a real good system. Not on my watch. I developed this program in 2005. It was implemented in 2012. I've got a skill set, so I decided it's time to do something. It's time to act. Literally, I was sitting on the couch on December 15th, the day after Sandy Hook, and got the program out, started dusting it off, cleaning it up, and started to educate folks on what we can do. I give you 3 courses of action. Reader's Digest version is, I want to harm faculty. Now let that sink in for just a second before you fall out of your chairs. It's a process and it's a program. And I'll go through here right quick on some of the things that I'll conduct for you, but it is a campaign. Okay, it has to include everyone. But this is course of action 1, arming the faculty. We'll put signs out, armed personnel on the premise or however you want to do it. We will help you do that. But again, it's a deterrent. Just like the signs on those doors, you can look back through history at some of these other acts of terrorism. If they don't see any signs where it's a no gun zone, then that's the target. We'll select, train, and arm the faculty. It's a process, and it's a volunteer program. We don't want to tell somebody that they're going to have to change their life, and they will change their life. I'll also conduct interviews of those volunteers. They will also get a psych eval that's required. We're going to arm people. We need to see what they're thinking. Are they having a good day or are they having a bad day? They're not required to carry every day. We're all humans, like I said. So if you don't feel up to it that day, then you let the boss know, and it's all good. There is a vetting process. Course of action 2 are armed guards, okay, or SROs. It's an intensive training program that they have to go through, a vetting process, and again, they will also receive psychological eval. And course of action 3 are nothing more than tabletop exercises and then conducting a full-scale drill and mission. It's just to get everybody on the same sheet of music to understand what they need to do in the event of an emergency. That can be a fire, that can be a tornado, or it can be an act of terrorism. I'll ask y'all a question just because I know this. Do you know since 1960 how many children have died in a fire in a school? Anybody have an idea? 0. You're right, sir. I think the last one was in 1956. 2 children died. Why is that?
Fire drills.
Yeah, we do fire drills, right? So we need to start looking at other things and drill our faculty, staff, and our kids on what's going to happen. Again, we can lock down, we can stay in place, we can run, or we can fight. So that's part of the program. But we have to train for a threat. And we'll invite law enforcement to train with us because they've got to get to know those folks that are armed, right? Because we don't want a first responder coming in a school building and seeing a teacher standing there with a weapon and them not knowing. But I do have devices that will help them and let them know who the right people are and who the wrong people are. Detailed program overview, mission. We're going to use all means to protect our children and ensure their safety, and that's it. Okay, we'll assess the current school safety and security plan, implement those security measures that they deem necessary and that are required. And then we're going to coordinate with local law enforcement to integrate those security plans, communicate with them, provide assistance. It's a volunteer program for the faculty and school personnel. We'll assist with the assessment and selection for personnel using our staff and professionals to ensure standardization. We're going to select key school personnel that meet the requirements. They're mature individuals. All right? principals, key leadership, folks like that. Maintenance personnel. Maintenance personnel make a whole lot of sense to me because they know that school better than anyone. They're out and about all the time. The kids know them. They know the kids. They know who's not supposed to be where they're supposed to be. So that's why I included them. Again, it's a process and it's a vetting process. Not everybody's going to meet the standards. Teachers, faculty, I'm not talking about that 22-year-old professional teacher. This is their first job that they've ever had. Again, it's a process and a program, so we'll look at everyone. But they've got to meet certain standardization. We'll utilize a stringent process for selection and assessment, both physical and mental. Because again, it will change their life. We'll provide an intense 3-day, 30-hour course of instruction. This is just the beginning. It's firearm safety and training, survival mindset, and these are just a few of the things. Tactical and emergency problem solving, critical thinking, first aid, realistic scenario-based training utilizing airsoft weapons in the classroom with role players. So I've got 4 different scenarios that I set up and run. Situational awareness, that's a big one, that's constant. They're going to shoot approximately 900 rounds in 3 days, okay, going through this course. The average law enforcement officer shoots approximately 50 bullets per year. Again, the education will continue. Twice a year, semi-annually, you'll have a refresher and continuous education for those people that volunteer for this program. So we'll come back, they'll shoot the standards, make sure everybody's good to go, and then continue on for another 2-day course. We'll ensure SROs are visible during high traffic times. It's a deterrent. And again, a campaign. We'll post signs around the school. We carry, not on my watch, whatever the case. Parents, I've always said this. Our best tool is mom with a cell phone, right? It is. It is. Now, don't talk on that cell phone while driving through the school. We'll pull over, put it in park, say, hey, I got guys out here that don't belong. But it is, again, it's an education process. We'll coordinate with local law enforcement to have them visible during high traffic times. So, again, money, time, personnel is just hard to do, so it just made sense to me to educate folks on this program and give them another option. Again, options during emergencies. We lock down, secure in place. We're going to fight, or we're going to run. Parts of the school, and I can show you in any instance, it may be right for them to lock down and stay in place, whereas another portion of the school, it may be right for them to take off running. I have two children, 2 girls. They were raised in Department of Defense schools. No, that didn't put them down. I know what you got to do. They're both in college now. But I always told them ever since they were old enough to understand me that if anything ever happened at school, to run. Because a running target is a lot harder to hit than a bunch of kids balled up in the corner. Okay? It just makes sense to me. But again, the situation is going to be different and dictate what you need to do. I just talked about ranges. You know, we'll use ranges, coordinate with local law enforcement, use their range. And again, they'll be invited because they need to get these folks that we're going to honor. Now, I've already done this program for 2 schools. I won't mention them. They asked me not to at this time. But both schools have integrated and implemented this program. School boards voted yes on it. Their safety and security councils have voted yes on it. So we're really excited. They start their weapons training here in a couple weeks. So more to follow on that. And last but not least, this isn't a cookie cutter program. Okay, we're going to help you do what you need to do. But we'll assist the school district and law enforcement with their specific needs. Just a cost estimate, of course, that always comes up. I wanted to compare and contrast Corps of Action 2 with Armed Security Guard. you're looking at 2 personnel, and they ask me, well, why 2 personnel? Well, one's gonna be sick or on vacation, or this is bare minimum. This is an average national cost here, it's about $125,000 per year for 2 personnel to be at that school district. Armed faculty, you're looking at about, and I base it on 10 personnel, $650 a person, 3-day training course. So about $6,500. And then it runs for the semi-annual training too. And then tabletops, full-scale drills, and semi-annual training. Any questions? Anything burning? Comments? Thank y'all. If anybody's interested, I do have some pamphlets. Just come up here and I'll give you these. So, thanks again for having me.
Great, you are.